This meeting of the Port of Olympia Commission is now called to order. First thing up is, let's see, hold on. Let me start with our statement here. The Port of Olympia is working diligently to address the threat posed by COVID-19 to Thurston County, the state of Washington, and the United States. On March 16th, 2020, the Commission adopted Resolution 2020-03, authorizing certain emergency powers in light of the COVID-19 outbreak, including invoking applicable emergency exemptions to meeting notice requirements and location restrictions of the Open Public Meeting Act. Pursuant to Resolution 2020-03, the Port of Olympia Commission is conducting today's meeting remotely. The Port is following the guidance from the Thurston County Health Department to take all efforts to prevent the spread of this virus and is acting in the interest of the safety and welfare of the public, the community, and our employees to limit the spread. So again, welcome to the Port of Olympia Commission meeting. Next up, the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Evans, would you lead us in that pledge, please?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you very much. Next up is approval of the agenda. We actually have one thing we need to add to the agenda, which will be item D, and that is a special report for warrants over $200,000. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda with that addition?
Commissioner Ayala, point of order. I think you want to state your amendment, ask for a second, get approval on the amendment, and then ask, if you don't mind, if there are any other amendments to the agenda.
Okay, well, well, let's go ahead and do that. I don't necessarily agree because that wasn't it wasn't an amended motion, but we can take that up. Okay.
Well, I think Commissioner Ayala, maybe I misunderstood. Did you want to change the agenda? I guess that's what it sounded like to me.
It's an addition. It was a inadvertent omission of the agenda, and so we need to add section D, a special report for warrants over 200,000. So the motion is, or no, I'm asking for a motion to adopt the agenda with the addition of the special report.
Commissioner Ayala, I'd like to offer a different amendment to the agenda before we vote on approval of the agenda, please.
Okay.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to move the action other calendar item IT contract and move it under advisory calendar. And if I get a second, then I'd like to have a short discussion about that. Is that a second,
Commissioner Evans?
Yes, I will second the motion.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Evans and Commissioner Ayala. I'm concerned about the IT contract. Of course, we all have conversations with our executive director, and I understand that it's time sensitive because the existing IT contract only goes to March 31. And I think that it would be advisable to have some transition between the new folks and the existing IT contract provider. However, I just basically have a lot of questions. So I was hoping that we could have a dialogue tonight about this item under advisory calendar. And then if there's time, there might be additional research needed before we come back and vote on this IT contract. And further, while I appreciate the executive director, we had one extension on the IT contract, I believe. Instead of December 31, 2021, it goes to March 31, 2022. But, I'm okay with extending it if that helps with the transition. So I'm not worried about extending the existing contract as necessary, because we're obviously moving forward at a steady pace to award the contract to the, I'm not sure, the successful candidate as a result of the RFP process. So, I'd like to ask once again to, for those reasons, to move this IT contract from action other to advisory.
Okay, so we let's act on that motion in second, right there. Commissioner Evans, yeah, you have.
I would just offer further discussion that I'm comfortable leaving the action item as action other. And if after the discussion that we have, we don't feel that we are prepared to vote, making that adjustment at that time. But I don't feel that we need to modify the agenda to confirm based on it being an operational issue. And deferring to the executive director and the staff. Obviously, the operations intersect with the capacity and strategic planning, which is our role, but I think we'll be able to have that discussion under action other.
Okay, so then we should vote on the amendment, which is moving, let me get it right here, which is moving the IT contract conversation from action other to advisory calendar. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no.
Aye. No.
No. I vote no also. Okay, so that brings us back to the agenda. Looking again for an agenda, a motion to adopt the agenda with the addition of the special report.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion on that? All in favor of adopting the agenda with the addition of the special report in front of the executive director report? All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. The ayes have it. So we have an agenda. Thank you very much. So that brings us to the special report. Executive Director Gibney, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you. Tracy brought up the executive director report, but we're still on special reports right now. And that is that we do have a warrant totaling $217,943.63. That is for payment of leasehold tax for the fourth quarter of 2021.
Can you say the number again, please, Sam? 217.
$217,943.63.
I would move to approve the leasehold tax payment of $217,943.63.
Point of order, Chairman IL.
Yes, Commissioner Downey.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate Commissioner Evans motion. I believe it can be handled within the consent calendar for bills and vouchers. If that $217,000 item is included in the bills and vouchers, and we approve that as a whole.
Mhm.
Is that right, Sam? Is that 217,000 within the vouchers?
Yes, indeed, Commissioner, it is included in the consent agenda. And so if the commission approves the entirety of the consent agenda, it will be approved. It is not required under our policy to have a separate motion, just that the special report is made to note such warrants before the commission votes to approve the consent agenda.
I'll revoke my motion.
Thanks, Commissioner Evans. Once again, sorry about being a know-it-all. I'm just going to keep saying that because I feel, that's the way I feel.
Thanks, Commissioner Downing. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, commissioners. And so we'll move on to the executive director report. Again,
Yep, great.
Executive Director Gibney, you have the floor.
Great. I think Tracy's going to bring up that PowerPoint. Okay. Up. And Sam Gibney here as your executive director. And this is a reminder that we are looking for your and the public's input on the July 23rd movie. You can visit portolympia.com to provide your suggestions. And next slide. As Black History Month draws to a close, we would like to celebrate George Washington Bush. George Washington Bush was born in 1779 to Matthew Bush, of African descent, who was said to be a sailor from the British West Indies, and his mother, who was an Irish-American maid. He was raised as a Quaker and educated in Philadelphia. He moved west, first to Illinois and then to Missouri, where he married Isabel James. The Bushes and 5 other families left for Oregon on the Oregon Trail to find a better life. But before their arrival, the provisional government set up in the Oregon Territory had enacted exclusionary legislation barring settlement by African Americans. The party then moved north and found a site for a settlement near the Deschutes River in what is now known as Thurston County, and formed the community known as the Bush Prairie. A portion of the port property and the southern section of the Olympia Regional Airport were part of this Bush Prairie settlement. Today, we recognize Mr. Bush for his impact on Thurston County and the legacy that he leaves with the port property. He is known for his education, his innovation, and for being a very generous man. You can read more about Mr. Bush at historylink.org. Next slide. The Port of Olympia's Winter Seaport newsletter has been distributed, and you can find a copy on the Port Seaport webpage. Next slide. The Port of Olympia is currently looking for an accounting coordinator. Applicants can find more information and apply on the port's website at portolympia.com. Applications are due by midnight on March 14th. Next slide. Swantown Boatworks is offering a free wash with a one-way haul out or a survey haul out through March 31st. Please contact Swantown Boatworks to schedule your haul out. Next slide. You can help the Port of Olympia and the Washington Trust for Historic Preservation chart the course ahead for our saltwater shorelines by reviewing draft plans for the Maritime Washington National Heritage Area. This new National Heritage Area will help us celebrate, maintain, and share Washington's maritime heritage. The Port of Olympia is a proud anchor organization, and we've been proud to help shape the program alongside with the Washington Trust for Historic Preservation. You can help refine the plan by taking a survey now through March 4th, reading the full management plan, providing comments, or attending a virtual information session. You can visit preservewashington or preservewa.org to get involved. The Port of Olympia offices remain closed to the public until further notice out of an abundance of caution to reduce the spread of COVID-19. The port business and administrative functions are continuing with limited access for the general public. Staff is available by phone and email. A full list of operational changes can be found on the port's website at portolympia.com, as well as on our social media platforms. And we are looking at the changes that the governor has announced, and will be offering when our offices will be open, and other changes that will be coming here in the coming weeks. And with that, as always, we have several ways for the public to engage with us. Here are some easy ways to contact us, give us feedback, or request a conversation. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Executive Director Givney. Are there any questions for Sam? Commissioner Evans?
Oh, thank you. I voted in the movies.
Commissioner Downey?
Yeah, quick question. How are we doing on the Marine Terminal Director recruitment, Sam?
Those are being advertised with our recruitment facility and or recruitment facilitator. That is the Prothman Company. And so we just finalized some paperwork with them today. Expect them to be advertised by the end of this week.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, you mentioned that you've posted for an accounting coordinator,
Mhm.
and you mentioned that the deadline for applying for that position is March 14th.
Yes.
Have you received any response yet? And if you don't get something by March 14th, what would be the next step?
We've not received anything yet. We are, as I think you're aware, it's a challenging time to do recruiting right now. And so we are looking at other potential solutions, including some potentially using some temporary staffing organizations, et cetera. So we're kind of looking at a couple plan Bs.
Yeah, okay, good. All right, thank you. All right, let's move on. Next item on the agenda is a litigation report. I see Felicia is with us this evening. Do you have a litigation report for us?
I do not have a litigation report this evening, Commissioner.
Okay, thank you. Now we
Commissioner.
move. Oh, yes, Commissioner Downing.
So I'd like to ask Felicia, is there any pending litigation at this time?
No, Commissioner.
Oh, okay, excellent, thanks.
Okay, ready to move on. The next item on the agenda is public comment and commission response. Did we have any requests to speak this evening?
Nobody signed up this afternoon.
All right, I don't see any hands up.
We have a couple.
We do have a couple now. Looks like former Commissioner Zita has her hand up.
Good evening, Commission Chair Ayal and Commissioners. Good to see you all here. Happy New Year. I sent you email today. You may or may not have had a chance to read it. I have a home near Olympia Airport and the Bush Prairie, and my comments tonight concern transparency, accountability, and good government. These require empowered public engagement as described by the Washington State Supreme Court in a decision against a port in 2017. First of all, I'm proud that the Olympia Port Commission passed Resolution 2018-05, adopting public participation guidelines from the IAP2, the International Association of Public Participation. The port agreed to involve the public meaningfully in planning. In the airport master planning process underway now, however, the port appears to be stuck on level 2, which is merely consulting the public. That can be seen as manipulating a good tool, the IAP2, in order to stymie empowered public participation. The IAP2 warns that this is a dangerous practice. And I encourage you to follow the second part of our Resolution 2018-05, which provides for annual training in effective IEP2 methods and practices. The new commission should get that training at your earliest convenience, as should Port staff who've had a lot of turnover recently. You deserve it, the public deserves it, and your resolution calls for it. The IEP2 spectrum is a good thing, but not if it's misused. Second, good governance includes following the law at a minimum. A conflict of interest complaint against Commissioner Evans due to her role brokering the Port's Panettone deal as Realtor Evans is being invested by Chmelik's law firm. He represents the WPPA, and it's not clear whether that counts as an independent investigator. You might recall that state law requires that the Port make the investigation findings public. That means the public should not have to submit public record requests to get information. Meanwhile, Commissioner Evans would be wise to refrain from discussing real estate at the Port. At your meeting on February 7th, she and Commissioner Downing discussed the KGY real estate situation in details. And she commented that the property isn't worth much without a lease. Whoa, that is risky business. State law means that the Port could risk losing any real estate contract that Commissioner Evans discusses, not to mention potential fines and legal actions. So unless Commissioner Evans is recused from real estate discussions, including executive sessions, both she and the Port are at risk, and I'm sure you don't want that problem. Similarly, Joe Downing should recall that state law and Port policy preclude him from campaigning from his commissioner seat. It made sense for him to tell us that he plans to run for re-election during the Port retreat, but Downing risks violating laws when he discusses his campaign further at Port meetings. Downing would be wise to recall that those meetings are recorded. And finally, you plan to vote on extending the IT contract tonight. I'm not sure what information you've received about the current IT contract, but you should know that due to a conflict of interest between related staff members and very irregular contract approval processes, the Port Commission agreed in 2021 that the IT contract must go out to bid quickly. Further delay makes the Port vulnerable. The public will be grateful for the Port Commission's demonstrated commitment to transparency, accountability, and good governance. Thank you for your service.
Commissioner Ayal, I apologize. I didn't pull up the clock, and I can certainly do that moving forward.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and thank you, Ms. Zita. I would just want to remind everybody, we do want to limit our comments, our public comments to 3 minutes each. Apologies, we didn't get the clock up, but we do appreciate your comments. And I do see another hand up, Jill Wolf. If you are there, you have the floor.
Yes, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
I just wanted to say how much I appreciated you modifying the agenda for this week and adding to the advisory section, the time for public comment that was left out before. And you now have it in there correctly, and I really appreciate you doing that after I brought it up at the last meeting. The other issue I had is if we could get participants shown on the Zoom meeting, so it would be much more familiar to us, like having a face-to-face rather than not knowing who are the participants in the meetings. I look for it tonight and I see it's not there, so I just wanted to get an update on that. If you could, because you had said you'd take a look at it last meeting when I brought it up. So if you have an update on that, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. I do see another hand up, L. Reiner.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go right ahead. You have the floor.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the ability to comment on the Port of Olympia issues tonight. I would just like to echo the comments made just a moment ago about the participants list. As was said, we used to be able to see other participants on these calls, and it gave us all a sense of camaraderie, shall we say, or let's face it, there are very few people who come on to these Zoom meetings for the Port of Olympia. And we're a fairly small group, but we keep our ear to the ground, and we're very concerned about this public agency that's using a lot of money and taking out a lot of loans on behalf of the taxpayers. And so many of us really want to follow these issues, and being able to see the list of others who are also following these issues is a part of the transparency of the Port of Olympia. And so, as you're aware, many of us asked for the more transparency for the Port of Olympia for many years. We're hoping to get there. And so again, it would be great to see the participant list as has been done on the past. Also, I wanted to comment regarding the airport master plan. Many of us spoke on that Zoom meeting regarding the airport master plan. We were told again and again that our comments were merely taken down, and there would be no response to our comments or no feedback to our comments. It seemed like nobody was really listening to our comments. And here we go again. Taxpayers are paying a lot of money for this agency. And do we have a dialogue with this agency, with the Port of Olympia? Or it seems like many people send in public comments, nothing ever happens, and the commissioners vote against all the citizens that sent in their letters, all the comments that were made. And people need to know what the port is thinking. And we had a lot of questions during that master plan Zoom meeting for the Port of Olympia. So we're all hoping that we get some responses to the questions that we asked during that Port of Olympia Airport Master Plan meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Reiner. I don't see any other hands up. So we can move to commissioner response. Commissioner Evans, do you have anything to respond with?
Thank you for being here and sharing your comments. We really do appreciate it. I am curious if we have an update from Sam or whomever the appropriate person is on the participants and attendees list. I know that that's a technical issue. Do we have an update on that?
It is a technical issue. It's not available by using the Zoom webinar. And so we're not able to use it with a platform. We had used a regular Zoom. Many agencies stopped using the regular Zoom because of the phenomena of Zoom bombing, where people were coming in. And so we've not gone beyond that, but it is not capable. We're not capable of it with this particular platform that we're using on Zoom.
And I would just say, hopefully, as we move forward and get back to in-person, we'll have some more of that sense of camaraderie and looking across the table at each other, because I agree with all of the public comment that is really helpful. And then I was on the master plan airport call as well. And I definitely hear what you're saying about wanting a forum where you feel like you're being heard. I think that some of the procedural steps with the FAA are regimented in a way that doesn't necessarily incorporate that. And so that's something that we can talk about maybe in one of our work sessions of how we can incorporate public feedback on the vision of the airport overall, even if it doesn't fit into the box of that airport master planning that's going on for the FAA. So thanks again for your feedback, everybody.
Commissioner Downing?
Sure thing. Thanks, Commissioner Ayel. I'm looking forward to the investigative report for Commissioner Evans' daytime job versus her Port Commission job. And I, feel that to save the public time, we should just make that public as soon as we get it, rather than people having to file public records requests because it is a public record. And I'm looking forward to that report for two reasons. One is that we understand, define what a conflict of interest is as it pertains to these three commissioners. And also, how do we skirt around that? I mean, we've heard a lot of responses from the public saying this ought to happen or that ought to happen, but we can't necessarily take that to the bank. But what we can take to the bank is impartial investigation about, how to proceed these situations that any of us could face in terms of a conflict. I also agree with Mr. Wolf. I really like to bring back the list of attendees. I mean, I enjoy the list of attendees. I can see them. And so I hope we can investigate what version of Zoom that the attendees can at least see their names in these last few months while we're still on Zoom. And then I think I got to give credit where credit's due. I think Ms. Renner brought that up in terms of seeing the participants, maybe Mr. Wolf and Ms. Renner. In any case, thank you for your comments, everyone. And that's all I have.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you, commissioners, for your responses. And thank you to everyone who made public comment this evening. We do appreciate your participation and take everything that we hear here very seriously. And I have to make it unanimous. I'm looking forward to the day we can get back to in-person meetings, and it'll make this much better for everybody who wants to be involved. So thank you all for that. So the next item on the agenda is the consent calendar. The consent calendar, we have bills and vouchers and the Washington State Patrol aviation lease renewal. Do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Sure, I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar, including bills and vouchers and the WSP aviation lease renewal.
Second that motion.
All right, we do not have comment on consent calendar, so I'll call for the vote. All in favor of approving the consent calendar, which includes bills and vouchers and Washington State Patrol aviation lease renewal, signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. The ayes have it. The consent calendar has been approved. Next item on the agenda is the action calendar. And first item in the action calendar is the multi-purpose training center ILA with the City of Olympia and Lot Clean Water Alliance. Sam, you have the floor.
Great. Thank you, Commissioners. Sam Gibney, Executive Director, back here for the second time, speaking with you regarding a interlocal agreement for a multi-purpose training center collaboration. Next slide. Next, pardon me, my notes just went way here. The draft interlocal agreement before you represents an opportunity to explore a potential partnership to develop a technical trade education center. Early conversations have indicated there are multiple parties and agencies with shared interest in education, trade training, workforce development, economic development, and environmental sustainability. Specifically, LOT seeks specialized trades for their unique capabilities. The City of Olympia has a designated trade district in our area, and the port recognizes the need for maritime trade and other trade training. Potentially considered for port property and in or around the Port Peninsula or the East Bay districts, other organizations and community groups that may also wish to participate include the Olympia School District, South Puget Sound Community College, and the New Market Skills Center. Next slide. The purpose is to conduct a joint scoping exercise to explore a possible collaborative project and to define a pathway towards implementation. The scoping exercise would identify and prioritize goals for the project, consider opportunities for physical infrastructure, consider related training and programming, and involve the Center for Sustainable Infrastructure. The work product would be documentation of the goals, priorities, opportunities, and potential programming. Next slide. Here's a sample motion for your consideration, and I am happy to answer any questions.
Oh, Commissioner Ayala, you're muted.
Go figure. Okay. Thank you, Executive Director Gibney, for that. I think we've talked about this. So is there anyone who would like to make a motion regarding the interlocal agreement?
I would move to authorize the executive director to execute the interlocal agreement between the City of Olympia, the Port of Olympia, and Lot Clean Water Alliance regarding scoping for a multi-purpose training center.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and it's been seconded to move to authorize the executive director to execute the interlocal agreement between the City of Olympia, the Port of Olympia, and Lot Clean Water Alliance regarding scoping for a multi-purpose training center. Is there any discussion on this? Commissioner Evans, you made the motion. Do you have any discussion?
I am just excited about the collaboration between jurisdictions and seeing what potential this has. In our previous meeting, our executive director made it clear that she felt she was comfortable with this expenditure from a budgetary standpoint. So I think this has a lot of exciting potential with the trades and training and working with our local partners in our community to create something really cool.
Thank you, Commissioner Evans. Commissioner Downing, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Nothing I'd like to add. I support Commissioner Evans' comments and the concept in general.
All right, I do as well. So let's call for the vote on this. All those in favor of authorizing the executive director to execute the interlocal agreement between the City of Olympia, the Port of Olympia, and Lot Clean Water Alliance regarding scoping for a multi-purpose training center, please signify by saying aye.
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 All right, motion passes. Executive Director Gibney will go ahead and get that interlocal agreement executed. Thank you all for that. The next item on the action calendar is the strategic planning consultant contract. That looks like Executive Services Director Parks will fill us in on that.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Ayal. I'm here again for the second time to talk about the strategic planning consultant agreement. So next slide, please, Tracy. So as way of background, the 2022 budget included approximately $65,000 specifically for strategic planning for the commission and the staff. Jim Darling of Leeward Strategies has been identified and has been helping the Port District prepare for the strategic planning process. He's a highly qualified professional who has extensive experience both with Washington State Port Districts as an executive director with very similar experience and business units. He has worked as a consultant for more than a decade, doing specifically strategic planning processes for local government entities, primarily in Washington State. And so the staff are recommending that we move forward with a contract with Mr. Darling and Leeward Strategies to complete the strategic planning process. Next slide, please, Tracy. So essentially, the scope of this project will primarily, the purpose is to integrate all of the great work that has already been done over the past several years by the Port of Olympia and the community stakeholders that have participated in Vision 2050, in the destination waterfront planning process, and in the existing strategic plan from 2017. So Mr. Darling will do a lot of background research and review of those existing documents. He plans to conduct interviews with the commissioners and senior staff as part of task 1. And then based on his findings from that process, we will move into task 2, which is primarily working in strategic planning workshops with the commission and staff, identifying and aligning the timelines and priorities for the different projects and initiatives that are identified within those existing documents. And then out of that work with the commission and staff in those work sessions, he would draft a strategic plan that would be applicable from 2022 through 2025. They would be draft and final versions that would include reaffirming the port's mission, vision, and values, and setting goals and strategies that incorporate key initiatives, projects, and priorities with some timelines, again, based on those previous efforts. And then lastly, he would assist staff in developing action plans, specifically an action plan for 2023 that would be oriented around putting the different strategies, projects, and initiatives that are identified in the strategic plan actually into action in the over the course of the year, calendar year 2023. Next slide, please, Tracy. So the schedule for this project would be to begin immediately upon approval. We would expect to have Mr. Darling's process done by the end of 2022 at least. It is a budget of not to exceed $49,350. However, Mr. Darling charges time and materials, so that is an estimate and it will not be exceeded unless there's a previous written authorization. And our next steps would be to authorize the executive director to sign the agreement with Leeward Strategies. In this case, we're requesting signature of a personal services contract, which is authorized by RCW Title 53, Chapter 19, as well as Port Policy 1001. In those RCW, the ports are allowed to enter into agreements up to $50,000 in value and allow those agreements to be awarded without a competitive bid process. Port policy goes one step further and requires that the non-operational personal services agreements that are more than $25,000 and less than $50,000 for specific commission approved projects, that those agreements be approved by the commission, which is why we're here tonight. The next slide, please. So we've provided for your use a suggested motion if you would like to consider moving forward with this agreement with Mr. Darling and Leeward Strategies.
Thank you, Ms. Parks. Again, we've heard mostly about this before, and we have a motion, a suggested motion in front of us. Would anybody like to make a suggestion regarding this personal services agreement?
Sure. I move to authorize the executive director to sign the personal services agreement with the Leeward Strategies to assist with completion of the Port of Olympia strategic plan in an amount not to exceed $49,350.
Do we have a second? I will second that motion. Then did we lose Commissioner Evans?
Apparently.
She's not on the call at all.
I feel compelled to give her a minute to see if she can reconnect.
I will see, I will call her and see if we can find out what happened if you would just hold on for a moment.
Sure.
Thanks, Sam.
She just signed back in.
Oh, okay.
Welcome back, Commissioner Evans.
I lost power. It's windy out there.
Oh,
Yes, I
no.
lost power and internet. So I now have an iPad and a phone, so I apologize.
Wow.
Okay. I'm not sure where we lost you, but Commissioner Downing just made a motion. And now I don't have that motion in front of me.
In regards to Lisa's strategic planning consultant contract,
Yes.
and was there a second, or do you need a second?
There it is. No, we were looking for a second.
I would second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to authorize Executive Director to sign the personal services agreement with Leeward Strategies to assist with completion of the Port of Olympia strategic plan in an amount not to exceed $49,350. Is there any discussion? Commissioner Downing, do you have anything you'd like to say about this?
No, I think I've said it all. I'm in favor of it. I think we're off to a good start. We've had a couple of meetings, and it'll be a good process to talk about the future of the port this year.
Thank you, Commissioner Evans. Any final comments on that?
Yeah,
Or
I
any
think
comments?
it'll help us get rowing in the same direction, using the feedback from the public, the staff, and then the direction of the commissioners, so we can get to the meat and potatoes, as Sam says, of what we're actually getting up to. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is going to be a very beneficial exercise for the port and the commission and Thurston County. So we have a motion and a second to authorize Executive Director to sign the personal services agreement with Leeward Strategies to assist with completion of the Port of Olympia strategic plan in an amount not to exceed $49,350. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. The ayes have it, so the motion carries. Executive Director Gibbons is directed to execute the personal services agreement with Leeward Strategies. Thank you all very much. Moving on, the next agenda item is the action other calendar. We have one item under the action other calendar, the IT contract. And it looks like we may be hearing from Finance Director Matt Peach.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Matt Peach, Finance Director here at the Port. Tonight I'm presenting on our information technology services contract and our recommendation for meeting our managed services IT needs over the next 3 years. Next slide, please. IT provides essential support to the Commission, staff, and port operations. They are instrumental in infrastructure design and management, network design and implementation, and software and phone support. They provide technical management to include network security, data backup, and network communication. Next slide, please. The Port utilizes a third party for administrating information technology services. The Port entered into a contract with Port Computing Services Incorporated in January of 2013. The current contract with PCI expires on March 31st, 2022. Next slide, please. In response to the expiring contract, the Port sent a request for qualifications on November 10th of 21 with a deadline for receipt of qualifications for prospective providers on November 29th. The Port received 8 responses to the RFQ. 6 of the prospective providers were invited to a site visit on December 7th, and 5 of the 6 providers participated. After this site visit, 1 company withdrew from further consideration. Individual interviews were held with 4 prospective providers. The evaluation committee, consisting of a representative from the airport, marine terminal, marina, and the administrative office, scored each of the 4 interviews and determined that 3 of the prospective providers would be asked to submit proposals. January 5th of 22 was the deadline to receive proposals, and 2 prospective providers responded within the deadline. On January 20th, the review team met to discuss and decide on a provider to recommend that the port enter into a long-term contract. Next slide, please. Staff is recommending we move forward with a contract with MaxGlide Incorporated, doing business as Firefly, with a contract start date of March 1st, 2022. Firefly is a respected managed service provider and headquartered in Wenatchee, Washington. The review team was impressed with their internal training program, breadth of knowledge, years in business, and willingness to discuss our needs over the course of our initial interview and follow-up conversations. Firefly currently supports such agencies as the Chelan Douglas Regional Port Authority and the City of Leavenworth. The contract terms include a 3-year duration and a total contract not to exceed amount of $750,000. Next slide, please. The monthly contracted fees total $495,000 for the 3-year contract. Hourly rates of $125 an hour for work outside the scope of the contract, or $175 an hour if work is performed by Firefly outside normal business hours. Travel costs will be billed at a flat $300 per trip. Any increase to device counts will be charged at an additional $105 per device per month. And the next 2 slides are questions and comments, and the last slide is a sample motion.
I have a question.
Sure.
It's Commissioner Evans. Go ahead.
Matt, will you clarify? Can you go back to the previous slide? Monthly contracted fee of $495,500 for the 3-year contract. I think I just might not be reading that right. What is that, $495,000?
Yeah, so we have like a fixed rate per month of roughly $12,000 for the duration of the contract, and that totals the roughly $495,000. The $750,000 is the not to exceed about, giving us room for consulting services and any essentially consulting services.
Got it. That makes sense. Thank you.
And then those are billed at those contracted rates.
Thank you. One more question. Who was involved in making this decision as far as your team, Matt?
Yeah, so we had Lori Watson at the airport, TJ Kwan at the marina, Conley Booth was at the terminal, and then Chris Martinez is our new contract and grants administrator, and then myself.
And was it a unanimous decision?
It was.
Thank you.
Commissioner Downing, any questions or comments?
Well, thanks, Matt, for that presentation. I was under the impression we were gonna, perhaps save some money going forward with this IT contract. But I think that, roughly speaking, I don't have all the numbers exact. Roughly speaking, we pay about $20,000 a month right now for IT. And that works out to, roughly speaking, $250,000 a year, which times 3 is $750,000. So I'm not sure, except for the effect of inflation, I'm not sure I'm seeing a lot of savings, number one. And number two, is there going to be anybody on site with this new company, MaxGlide? Will there be any workers on site?
So I'll respond to your first comment first, Commissioner.
Okay.
The monthly contracted amount of the $495,000 is what we will be charged per month over the course of the contract. The additional $250,000 roughly will be up to us to determine if we need to expend those resources. So that's the first thing. And the second part of your question, there will not, managed services generally, in my experience over the years, has been, they do not necessarily have someone on site. They remote in, they manage the software and the infrastructure offsite. If they need to come on site, they are able to do that. They do have a contract, an employee that's in the Puyallup area, and they've also committed to, as needed, come over the mountains as required based on our needs.
Thank you. The other thing is that I feel that I guess a 1 month overlap between the existing IT. I mean, we're looking at an IT system that's been in place for, pick a number, 10 to 15 years. And I'm guessing 4, 5, or 6 independent pieces of software that somehow talk to each other. For example, you have the fuel dock, it's got a retail sales system. You've got the marine terminal that's got a system for ships. You've got email systems. You've got a lot of different systems. And I worry that, I would like to see, I'll just say this, I'd like to see a minimum of 3 months of overlap before we show the existing IT company the door and as these new people take over. I mean, I've been involved in software implementations, going from one system to another in a large corporation. And I'm not saying this is identical, but it definitely takes a few months of successful overlap. I mean, I maybe could live with not having a person on site. My wife and I use Geek Squad, and they reach into your computer from God knows where, and they take over and they fix whatever the problem is. And that's pretty high tech. I'm sure these people can do that too. But, when you have a hardware problem, you need a person to walk in and explain the problem to. So, but given the fact that, this is operations and you had, 5 people that you're unanimous in picking this particular company and so on and so forth. I mean, I can live with that. I just feel like there needs to be more overlap than 1 month. And, I feel strongly about that. And, I guess if you want my vote, somebody needs to step up and say, we're going to give you, figure out a way to, have at least a 3-month. I mean, you have to research that question, but at a minimum of 3 months to maintain the existing systems. And MaxGlide comes in and gets to know the systems pretty well and so forth. Because if there's one thing the Port of Olympia has done right, I've had a few hiccups with my emails, but by and large, the system has been running pretty darn well over the years. And I realized the need to have an RFP and go out there and find out who else is available and continually modernize the system. So I'm supportive of all that. I'd just like to see more overlap between the old and the new.
Can I ask a follow-up question, Commissioner Ayala? Or after you're done, whichever you'd prefer.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Matt, was an extension of the existing contract considered, and is that something that your internal team discussed? And could you say more about that?
Yeah, it was certainly considered. No formal offer was made. It was discussed internally.
And you guys determined that it wasn't necessary for the transfer to happen?
We are certainly comfortable with the transition in a 1-month period. We're also open to a 3-month period if that's what the commission prefers.
Thank you.
So I guess I would just say that I know these kind of things can be scary. I too have been through a major transition of service, or not service providers, but technology services for our internet in where I work now. So it can be a little bit scary, but I know that these folks are, I don't know MaxGlide, but I know that these, in general, these larger technology firms are very good at what they do. I'm happy to hear that we did go through the RFQ process and vetted this company carefully. I'm happy to hear that. I think that this is something that we do need to get done sooner rather than later. I don't know that we need to extend the current contract an extra 2 months, but I will leave that to the other commissioners. We do have a sample motion in front of us. Is anybody ready to make a motion?
I would move to authorize the executive director to execute the contract 2020-1045 with MaxGlide Inc. doing business as Firefly in the amount of $750,000 with an expiration date of February 28th, 2025 for managed information technology services.
Is there a second?
I'd like to make an amendment to the motion. I'm not sure I'm on shaky ground because I'm not sure about Robert's rules right here. If you get a second on the first one first, and then I make a motion to amend.
Yeah, if you second it, then you can make a motion to amend.
Thank you, Commissioner. I second the motion from Commissioner Evans. And then I'd like to amend the motion in the following way. I move to authorize the executive director to execute contract 2021-1045 with MaxGlide Inc., DBA Firefly in the amount of $750,000 with an expiration date of February 28th, 2025 for managed information technology services, provided that the existing IT contract be extended for 2 months to provide sufficient overlap with the new company. Period.
Okay, let's see. We're gonna have to write that down, I think, Commissioner Down.
Okay.
At least for my sake. And I hate to ask you this, but can you repeat that?
Well, sure thing. I'll do better this time. I move to authorize the executive director to execute contract 2021-1045 with MaxGlide Inc., DBA Firefly in the amount of $750,000 with an expiration date of February 28th, 2025 for managed information technology services, and the existing IT contract be extended by 2 months to provide sufficient overlap between the old and the new IT contract providers.
Okay, let me repeat that. So we have the motion, and you're adding with existing IT contract extended for a 3-month overlap.
With the existing IT contract be extended for 2 months to provide a 3-month overlap between the old and the new IT contract services provider.
Extended for 2 months to make it a 3-month overlap between existing IT contract and the new IT contract.
I'll second the amendment.
Okay. Let me catch up with you here real quickly. Okay, so we have an amendment with a second. Okay. Hopefully I've got this right. So we have an amendment and a second on the amendment, and the amendment is to add to the sample motion with the existing IT contract extended for 2 months to create a 3-month overlap between the existing IT contract and the new IT contract.
Commissioner, I just have a question of clarification, if I
Sure.
might.
Sure.
Is it the intention of the amendment to make the award of the contract contingent upon the extension? And so if we cannot reach an agreement with the existing provider, that we would then not subsequently award, and then we would be without IT services? I'm trying to make sure that I'm understanding. Yeah, just a point of clarification, and perhaps the intention might be served better to have two separate motions.
Well, point of order, Chairman IL,
State your point.
the amendment's been moved and seconded to amend the original suggested motion. So the next step is to, well, I guess we're having discussion on the motion, but I think that since the amendment's moved and seconded, I'm not sure you can change the amendment at this point to our executive director, wanting to break it into two different motions. So.
Yeah, I agree. We have a motion, or we have an amendment with a second, so we need to take care of that business first. And I think Executive Director Gibney's question could be addressed in the discussion portion. And maybe Commissioner Downing, because you did pose the amendment. Do you have a comment on her question or clarifying question?
I think I do. Let me try Sam to respond, and hopefully I'll hit it on the head. But basically, the amended motion puts two things together. One is we approve the contract with Firefly, and I assume that they accept. And then the same resolution, the same motion also mandates a 3-month overlap starting tomorrow. Tomorrow's March 1. So you got March, April, May, where you have the existing IT people, and I guess you'd have to bring that back to us and approve it for another 2 months. And so then you have this 3-month overlap time in which the parties can talk to each other and collaborate and make sure they understand, how the systems operate and how to have a flawless transition. So that would be the intent of the amended motion.
And I think maybe to further clarify, she's wondering if the contractor with the existing agreement refuses the extension, what does that do to the new contract?
Okay, now who refuses? I'm sorry, Commissioner.
If the existing contractor, the one with the existing agreement,
Right.
Refuses the extension, does that nullify the authorization to execute the new agreement?
Well, I think that would have to come back to the commission. If we had something in writing, that sounds far-fetched, but if the existing IT contractor puts it in writing that, I'm happy to be done March 31st, and I'm sticking with that, that would be a different consideration. This is, I think we're getting too much in operations. I'm gonna throw it back to Sam this time. We're getting too much in operations. Figure out how to make this work. Figure out how to make this work, because to me, it's extremely critical to have a 3-month overlap. So, whatever you have to do with the existing IT people, we need to have them available for some period of time to make sure that things just don't go belly up, in the middle of.
Commissioner Evans, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I respect Joe is, looking out for the transition. We had some thoughtful public comment about that transition, and I take that very seriously and have thought about it a lot. That was part of getting my questions answered from Matt. And to your point, Commissioner Downing, I think that We are getting into operations, and if Matt and his team have determined that they don't need this additional time or didn't choose to negotiate that, that isn't something that I would support putting that upon them. I think that's an operational decision for them to make based on their expertise and their knowledge of the inner workings. So I totally appreciate the intent. I do think it's us getting into operations, which we won't ever have the full picture to understand as well as Matt and his team.
I see. Well, may I respond, Commissioner Ayala?
Yes, please do.
I think it's important that we, part of the transparency of this new Port Commission is to be able to argue respectfully in public. And so we're talking about an extra 40,000 for the current IT people. I think the downside is pretty huge to not have a snafu. I'm not convinced that Port staff really knows how much overlap is needed. And, because we all come to this Port Commission with different experiences, and I can tell you that the port system, and I sat down with the current IT people and sat through an 1.5-hour presentation on how deep and involved and complex our IT systems are. Don't forget, we've got even just the wiring is complex because we've got the original Port of Olympia building way over on the marine terminal. And why is it still standing? Because it's got full of wires and servers and things going through there and then coming back over to another location. And so, it's a very complex system, and that all has to be transmitted to this outfit out of Wenatchee, who's not going to have a presence here. So, I'm extremely concerned about that decision that 4 weeks is enough time to turn the keys over the entire port system to the new folks. And so I'm sorry that, I'm sorry that we have a disagreement, but that's life. And we certainly have different perspectives on things.
All right, thank you both for your comments. I tend to think that this is a situation that we do. I do believe that staff is, because they're there every day, they're working with it. They understand, they understand it can be scary. I'm not going to say that it's, we should take this lightly at all, but I think we should be able to trust our staff to know if they do need that extra help, that they will know that we would support them if it did come to a point where they needed to extend the existing contract further. So with that, if there's no further discussion, I will call for a vote on the amendment. The amendment, which is the sample motion with the addition of with existing IT contract extended for 2 months to create a 3-month overlap between the existing IT contract and the new IT contract. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no.
No.
No. So the amendment fails, which brings us back to the sample motion. We have the motion, and we made a second on it. So is there further discussion on the sample motion? We can start with Commissioner Evans. You made the motion, so you can start.
I just want to reiterate what Commissioner Downing is saying. This is a really big process and necessary to all of our operations. And it sounds intimidating to me with my limited technology experience. So Matt and Sam, I hope that you know that you would have the commission's support in any sort of stopgap measures to make sure that we're not going to have any loss of service. Obviously, it's going to be a big transition no matter what. But again, I defer to you as the operational experts.
Commissioner Downing, any follow-up conversation or discussion?
No, thank you.
No, thanks. All right, thank you very much. And I will just echo Commissioner Evans. I know this is a big deal, and I don't take this lightly, and I know our staff doesn't take this lightly. So I feel good about this. So with that, the motion is to authorize the executive director to execute contract 2021-1045 with Max Glide Incorporated, doing business as Firefly, in the amount of $750,000 with an expiration date of February 28th, 2025 for managed information technology services. All in favor, say aye.
Point of order, Chairman Ayal.
Yes.
I
Your point?
believe that we need public comment on this action other item before we vote.
Oh, well, thank you for that. You're absolutely right. I apologize.
Thank you.
Okay, let's look at, is there any public comment for this motion? I don't see any hands up. There is one hand, former Commissioner McGregor. If we can get him.
He's not showing anymore. We do have L.
I still see
Reiner
him.
showing. You can see, oh,
Yeah, I see him.
he just popped back up. Thank you.
All right. Mr. McGregor, go right ahead. You have the-
Thank you, commissioners. I'm going to give another historical perspective here on this as well. And forgive me, but not trying to throw another wrench into the gears. But we had approved, prior to my leaving office, a Homeland Security grant that required additional funding requests for additional, I think it was wiring and new cameras and upgrading some of the enhancements that we already have in place. And I can't remember the dollar amount, but my question is, will this company be able to perform that Homeland Security grant work if they come in by the end of March? And is there some expensive funds and a work or a deadline for the contract to be enacted and the improvements to be made? So I just throw that up as a caution, and I'm going to leave it at that. So thank you very much and appreciate hearing the discussion.
Thank you, Mr. McGregor. Elle Reiner has her hand up.
Yes, I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Please
Yes,
go ahead.
thank
You have
you.
the
Well, in this discussion regarding IT, again, we're talking about the Port of Olympia spending hundreds of thousands of dollars for the software issues related to the Port of Olympia's website. As public comment was given this evening, I believe there was some issues regarding conflict of interest regarding the first software contractor, the one that is currently leaving. And then you were voting on a new software contractor coming into place. As I believe from in my memory banks, the conflict of interest regarding the former IT provider dealt with the company itself somehow related to one of the Port of Olympia staff. And I was really surprised that none of the commissioners, none of the Port of Olympia commissioners brought this up to their legal representative. I know you hired an attorney recently to represent the Port of Olympia and give you some legal advice. But as I remember, when we had this discussion several months ago regarding this conflict of interest, we didn't hear a result from this conflict of interest regarding the Port of Olympia staff and the hiring of that IT contractor. So my question is, where is this discussion regarding this legal issue on this vote? I just don't see it. Again, I'm just wondering, we have these contracts that float by the Port of Olympia. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. Most people are having trouble paying their rent, but yet, easy come, easy go. It's flying this way and it's flying that way. Some people had asked what the current contractor, this IT contractor, how much per hour he was charging. I know that he can only spend $49,000, but it seems like you always give them more money. They come back for more money. They come back for more money. How much per hour is this new IT group asking for? I don't know. And the fact that they're they're across the mountains, as we say, makes it more problematic, as was discussed, because as was mentioned, a lot of the hardware is on the marine site, which is, we've had tremendous storms come through. And so we're just wondering where it is in all this discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Reiner. Any commissioner response? Commissioner Evans, you have any response?
Sure. Ms. Reiner, I believe, Matt, can you just confirm $125 an hour and $175 an hour for work outside of normal business hours? Is
Yeah, outside the scope of the contract, that's their hourly rate. Yes.
And then I believe, and maybe Felicia or Sam can just confirm this, that there was multiple investigations into that conflict of interest with the previous IT company, and those were deemed that there was no conflict. That employee is no longer at the port. So I think it's a moot point on a number of fronts, but Felicia or Sam, do you have any additional comments about that?
I can speak. Ms. Felicia Brown, General Counsel. I was not here for any previous investigations. I do know that there was an investigation that ended, I would say, prior to me joining the port, which was in April. And the alleged nepotism would have involved an employee that no longer is an active employee with the Port of Olympia. And so I think it's safe to say that those concerns would not be valid as of today regarding the consultant. I think it's also safe to say that there's never been a finding that there was a conflict of interest with the current IT consultant that the port has been using.
Thank you. And then lastly, can Sam or Matt touch on the Homeland Security grant that former Commissioner McGregor mentioned and how we plan to bridge that gap?
Matt, you can take that.
Sure. Yeah, the expiration date on that Homeland Security grant is November 30th of 2023. So we have some time there. Yeah, the consulting and the onboarding process will certainly help us determine what initial spend will be for some of that grant money, but this will be an ongoing project for the next year and a half, really. So.
And that was something that you took into consideration when making the decision to switch.
We did, and the reality is for a lot of that work, we're going to have to come back to the commission anyway because of the cost.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Evans. Commissioner Downing, any?
Well, thanks,
public comment
Commissioner
as well?
Ariel. Once again, that just seems like too much money. I mean, and all that fudge in there, you know what I call fudge is like, on one slide, it says 500,000 for 3 years. On the other slide, it says not to exceed 750. So which is it? That's just like too much fudge. I would have preferred to see a side-by-side comparison of what we're paying the existing IT contract people and what the new people are going to do, so we can see that the for example, the current IT contract people have no add-ons, or they do, I don't know. But we see the add-ons from the Wenatchee people. And then I'd just like to respond to Ms. Renner is there's just some things that we can and cannot talk about, Ms. Renner. And one is outcomes of investigation, how the investigation got started, because, you know, individuals have protections under the law, and you can put forth a whistleblower complaint and not have your name in there. So we as commissioners, it's shaky ground to even talk about, you know, past investigations of this or that sort. So, you know, if you want to know, you just have to go digging through your public records request. You know, that's the best thing I can tell you, because everything the port does is a public record. And so lastly, I know you guys are about to vote. I can tell you, you know, I'm going to vote nay out of principle, because I'm just not seeing enough analysis. And that's why I wanted this to be an advisory, so we could, you know, have a discussion, get back to staff with some additional questions. I feel unprepared to vote on this tonight. Thank you. Matter of fact, I make a motion to, well, I can't, because it's been moved and seconded. So I guess we're going to.
Yeah, we have a motion on the floor.
Thank
It's
you.
been seconded. We've had public comment, which, by the way, again, I appreciate the public speaking up when they have something to say, and we always appreciate hearing what's on your mind, and we will always strive to use that information to better provide for Thurston County. So we have a motion on the floor. It has been seconded. We've had discussion. Now it is time to vote on the motion, which is to authorize the executive director to execute contract 2021-1045 with Max Glide Incorporated, doing business as Firefly, in the amount of $750,000 with an expiration date of February 28th, 2025 for managed information technology services. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, say no.
Nay.
The motion carries 2 votes, 2-1. Thank you very much, commissioners and public, for all of your input on this subject. Moving now to advisory calendar. We have an item under advisory calendar, Centennial Events and Planning. It looks like Communications, Marketing, and Government Affairs Senior Manager Jenny Foglia Jones is going to present to us this evening.
Jenny, can you tell me if you've signed on with somebody else, or raise your hand?
It says Port of Olympia. There's a hand raised there. Okay, Jenny, if you're there, you have the floor.
Good evening, commissioners. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Hi, Jenny.
Right. Hello. So yeah, I'm here to talk to you tonight about the Centennial Planning and Events. We are very excited that we are celebrating our centennial this year. So next slide, Tracy. So the goals of the Centennial really are to celebrate our past achievements and highlight our future opportunities. We want to increase the understanding and appreciation of the port's history, our evolution that we've taken as a port, current operations, and then of course what our future plans are. We are looking at using this year to strengthen our existing partnerships and create new ones as well. We do plan on highlighting the many ways that the port has always created jobs and does continue to create jobs, as well as economic vitality today. And then we do have a plan to create a legacy project as well. Next slide. So the key messages that you're going to see throughout the year are that the port is an economic driver within Thurston County. We also will be discussing, again, how the port has been a large contributor to job creation throughout its history and how it continues to do so today. We will be discussing that the port is a strong and diverse community asset. We will also highlight our partnerships. We will highlight our environmental stewardship. You know, I know that when you look at some of the images that we've shown, even I think on the starting slide that I've had for Sam's executive director report, you see a very different looking port. And so I think that highlighting the legacy cleanups that the port has invested in over the time is going to be something that we will be definitely discussing. And then we also will talk about our future direction. Next slide. This is our current Centennial Planning team. So we do have staff members that are helping. We have a very diverse group coming from very different areas throughout the port. And we are, because we do have many new staff members, we have just opened it up to include an ask to staff if they have interest in participating. So I know that we've had a few more that have offered their time to the planning committee. And so we will be adding them to the list. So I wanted to talk with you about some of the events that we do have planned. Of course, there's going to be a lot of other stuff happening, but I'm just going to talk to you about a few highlights that we're going to be doing. So next slide, Tracy. So we really plan on doing a kickoff for, granted, we're celebrating Centennial year long, but we have talked about kind of stealing the idea from the Port of Tacoma. They did 100 years or 100 days for 100 years as their celebration. And so we kind of looked at that, and we're going to have 100 and a few extra days in there because we're utilizing our first summer nights at the port event on July 23rd to be kind of our kickoff of the summer season and the really big kind of community events that we're going to be doing. So that event, we wanted to capitalize on the fact that we're already spending money and putting on an event. It has a good base already. So we wanted to utilize that to celebrate with the community. So the event will start at 5 p.m. We already have live music, food trucks, a beer garden, an outdoor movie will be shown. But we do plan on adding in commissioner remarks. We're going to serve cake and ice cream to the community, and we will also have some promotional items that we'll be handing out as well. So more to come on that. You'll get a lot more information as we get closer. And then we also are planning a gala event. So this will be taking place on Friday, November 4th. It is a Friday night because our anniversary, our official anniversary is November 7th, but the Saturday is St. Martin's Gala, so we did not want to overlap with that. So we did go to the 4th Friday night. We have reserved the Washington State Capitol Rotunda as the location to hold the event. We wanted to kind of take it back to the 1920s, so a roaring 1920s theme is what we're planning. It will be a 6 to 9:30 p.m. event. We are going to be serving heavy hors d'oeuvres and drinks and that such, but we won't have like it won't be a seated meal, but it'll be more kind of just socializing up and about. We'll have some music, that kind of stuff. We will be combining this with our annual customer and partner appreciation event that normally takes place in December. So we will be inviting all of our customers, partners to it. We'll be inviting past employees, past commissioners. We will be having it open to the public as well, so they will have the opportunity to join us to celebrate. So we're looking forward to this event. Next slide. Other events that you'll see us at, of course, we have other summer nights at the port events that we will be tying in the Centennial theme. It just won't be the cake and ice cream and celebration that we'll have at the first one, but we will definitely tie in Centennial into that. Of course, all the other sponsored events that the commissioners did approve within the budget this year, we will make sure that when we're present, hopefully we get to be present at events this year, that when we're present at those events that we will be celebrating our centennial at the booth and making sure that people know our history and can kind of celebrate with us a little bit. We're hopeful that we can bring our port tour program back this summer as well. And so if we can do that, we will be able to speak to those that join us and give more of a historical perspective as well. And then stay tuned for more. I know Commissioner Downing, I see your eyes maybe lighten up a little bit this last here. So we are planning a boating scavenger hunt. TJ Quant is actually has some great ideas. And so we have some fun activities that we have planned for an on the water scavenger hunt that we plan to do this summer. So stay tuned for more about that. Some of the media and promotion that you're going to see throughout the year as well is, of course, social media. We'll be doing a lot of historical facts and photos and stuff like that to just kind of get the word out. We do plan on having a historical video created. We are already in the works of updating our website, which will have a timeline feature on it. And we are going to be asking for individuals to submit their memories or photos of their experiences on the port. And then we can share that content as well. We have several kiosks throughout the port. So we have the one at the farmers market that a lot of people are familiar with. We have the one at the launch ramp area and some other locations. And so we are going to be creating some historical posters that we'll be putting up so that it gives a little bit more information for people as they're walking around. Of course, we'll be creating some promotional items. We're going to be talking to some of our local bars and restaurants we'll be creating some of those paper disposable coasters, and we're going to see if they will use them in their bars and restaurants to be able to promote us at their locations as well. And then, of course, we have already started. You should probably see again next week. The first story is going to go out, but we have a series that we are launching with Thurston Talk for a lot of our historical articles that we're writing that are going to take you through our timeline and highlight different features of the port, different aspects of the port. And then South Sound Business, we're also doing some business magazine. We're also doing some advertising and editorial with them. Next slide. Some of the other stuff that we're working on right now, we're just getting ready to finalize our logo. And so we are hopefully going to have that wrapped up here by the end of the week. So you'll start to see that be added to things throughout the year. We do have a speakers bureau. I know that there's been some presentations that have already been done, but we are going out and seeking, asking people to add us to their agendas for presentations throughout the year. So there's no real timeline of when we're looking for that to start. It's just kind of as soon as they want to get us on their schedule, we will gladly accept that. We are updating our port history book. So we are in the proofing and editing phase of that right now. And then, of course, we'll be, like I said, promoting our tenants and partners throughout this year. KGY is celebrating their centennial this year as well. So we're also looking at how we can help partner and promote and celebrate each other. Next slide. And then a little bit on the legacy project. These photos are examples of other projects that have been done. The top one is the Port of Tacoma's legacy project. The bottom one you may be familiar with, that is the Olympia Rotary Club's centennial project that they just put on the Port Plaza this last summer. These are just examples of what others have done. This is not saying that that's what we're going to be doing, but we have formed a legacy team, legacy project team. We've decided that we want to make sure that whatever we do celebrates our history. It continues into the future as well. We are questioning, should it be a welcome to port property downtown Olympia on the peninsula or not? That's why there's a question mark on there, as we're still kind of figuring that out. Is it going to be a destination or an attraction that we're trying to drive people to? We're talking about different elements. Will it have water? Will it not have water? Will it be lighted or not? Graffiti removal is obviously a big discussion for us, et cetera. So you'll begin to see more about this happening soon, because what we're planning on doing is bringing forward to the commission some various ideas and letting you guys help decide what we end up ultimately going with. So I will say, and I know that this was presented to the commission during budget time, the previous commission, just so you know, we are not expecting the project to be finalized this year. This is really more of the planning, design, and maybe start of the project, but you'll probably see it finished, hopefully, in 23 is when the legacy project will be finished. Any questions?
Thank you, Jenny. Go ahead, Commissioner Downey. You're muted, by the way.
How'd that happen? I think I'm talking too much and the computer automatically mutes me. Anyway, very creative, very impressive, Jenny. Thank you. So when you talk about the legacy project, that's some sort of permanent memorial to our 100 years. Is that what you're talking about?
Correct.
Okay. And so this year we're kind of developing that idea and then that'll be put in place perhaps next year.
Yes, and I
Okay.
did also speak last week with the South Sound Maritime Heritage Association and thought that they might be a good source for us to maybe get some ideas from as well as to what they would suggest as some projects. So we definitely have a lot more work to do before it comes back to you to see kind of what our what our final ideas are for you to pick from.
Cool. Thank you. Great.
Commissioner Evans, any questions or comments?
Oh, I just think it's exciting. All of that sounds super fun, and it's nice to have things on the agenda that are celebratory. So good job, Jenny, and all of your team, and however we can support what you're doing. Yeah, sounds awesome. I was marking my calendar.
Thank you. You'll definitely get a lot more information, and I'm assuming be back to present to you guys as we get, kind of going through the year. I'll be coming back and doing other presentations to update you on where we're at and what's to come.
Thank you.
All right, very good. Thank you. Yeah, it's very, very exciting. I'm really happy to be a part of the port this year with the centennial, and I hope somewhere in there we celebrate the former commissioners that the port has seen over 100 years. I think the work that they've done that allows us to continue that tradition. I think they certainly deserve a lot of credit there. So thanks for what you're doing, Jenny.
Thank you.
So with that, let's see, we are okay, I guess we have one more public comment section for the advisory calendar. I'm looking on the list of attendees. I do not see any hands. Is there anybody? I see Ms. Wolfsberg has her hand up. Can we, and there you are, Ms. Wolfsberg, you have the floor.
Yes, hi, thank you. So this is Carla Wolfsberg. I live in Tumwater, and I guess I'm commenting on the centennial presentation that I just heard. I would just like to encourage that this year somehow the commission adopt the tribal land acknowledgement statement. I think this is an appropriate year. It should be included, I would hope, in any centennial, as well as some tribal participation. These are lands that have belonged to tribes in the past, and I would hate to see them left out. I did not see any of that so far in any of the material that was presented. So I hope that would be something that you would all take under very strong consideration. I think it's really important that we include tribal people in this, especially on the planning committee. I didn't see any historian names listed there, and I'm somewhat familiar with the historians of the area. So I would like to encourage that maybe some historians also be asked to participate in the planning. I think that would give it a great authenticity, and also they'd be great sounding boards for the material that you present. So thank you. I look forward to hearing more about this in the future.
Hey, thank you, Ms. Wolfsberg. I see Deborah Patton's hand up. Ms. Patton, you have the floor.
Hi, so I'm the chair this year of the Port of Olympia Citizens Advisory Committee. And as soon as we're able to begin our meetings again, I will be giving a report on the Centennial. I'm the representative from the POCAC to the Centennial, and from previous discussions over the last few years, I just want the public to know that there is tribal representation And they have been consulted, and I would not worry about that. We've been on top of this for quite a long time. So thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Ms. Patton. All right, I do not see any other hands up. Any commission response to the advisory calendar public comment? Commissioner Evans?
I appreciate your comments, Ms. Wolfsburg. I would say I met with Squaxin leadership, and they have a very strong relationship with Jenny, who just gave the presentation, and expressed excitement about working with the port this year, especially on our centennial. So I think your comments are well taken. Our own chairperson, Commissioner Ayal, obviously can give us good guidance on Nisqually. And I also met with representatives of the Chehalis tribe. So I think that both the staff and the commissioners are really committed to integrating that. And although it wasn't mentioned in the presentation, I think that it's embedded in the work that's being done. So thanks for letting us talk about that.
Thank you, Commissioner Evans. Commissioner Downing, do you have anything to?
Well, thank you, Ms. Wolfsburg and Ms. Patton for your comments. Ms. Wolfsburg, I like the idea of the tapping a local historian. That's a great suggestion. And so hopefully something like that could happen to add authenticity to our 100-year celebration.
Can I respond to that really quick, Commissioner Ayala?
Yes, go ahead.
We are working with Shanna Stevenson. And so she is the historian that we have actually been working with. So she's updating our centennial book, as well as I did meet with Chuck Fowler last week as well, regarding the South Sound Maritime Heritage Association. Sorry, my kids just got home from soccer practice. I apologize. So so we are working with individuals that definitely can help guide us with that historical perspective. So I appreciate the comments. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jenny. I will just add that I plan to provide some information to my fellow commissioners, and we'll put on on our next work session land acknowledgement or tribal honor statement, whatever we wind up calling it. But we will be having that conversation here in the next month, and try to nail down what our participation in that will be. So moving on, next item on the agenda is commissioner reports and discussion. Commissioner Evans, would you like to start?
Sure. I'll just get a little philosophical today. I really believe in collaboration, and what that means is believing in democracy and celebrating disagreement. I'm wearing my shirt today that says "Them is Us." And I think today's Port Commission meeting is a great example, discussing today's agenda items. Like Commissioner Downing said, it's our job to disagree in public. And I think whether we look at the Port Commission or we look at current events in the Ukraine, I think that people thrive when there's a tension of ideas, and it's really polarization and groupthink that fracture us and they weaken us. And so I really believe with collaboration, more is possible. And I'm really excited to continue moving forward in that spirit with this commission. And I believe we'll be able to do more service for all of the citizens of Thurston County by continuing to have that tension of ideas. So thanks for demonstrating that today, guys.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Evans. Commissioner Downing?
Well, thanks, and thank you, Commissioner Evans, for your philosophical comments, and for supporting my statement that to be transparent means we're going to, disagree right in front of people, but we do it respectfully, and that's where we get, excellent mileage. So moving on to my report, I went to the EDC meeting last week, and they had a presentation from a woman named Jenica Machado of the Broadband Action Team, of which the Port is a member, and so is the Nisqually Tribe, TRPC, Thurston County, EDC, and Thurston PUD. It's very informative. There's a lot happening there, especially with the Nisqually Tribe, Bob, Commissioner Ayel, and Thurston County and Nisqually are working on an interlocal agreement to move that forward, utilizing a $500,000 federal grant. These two gentlemen from the Nisqually Tribe talked about the different projects, both on the eastern and the western side of the county. And it's pretty amazing how far they've come and so on and so forth. So I look forward to us as a port getting more involved in broadband projects in some shape or form. So I look forward to that. That was my big meeting I went to this week. Let's see, I've got the Solid Waste Advisory Committee coming up on Wednesday. So that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Downing. Well, I agree. I know there's a lot of lot happening in the broadband area in Thurston County, and I think that's another good topic for an upcoming work session that the port we talk about how we can be involved in broadband, however that looks. Anyway, my report is, let's see, this morning I had my official orientation with the Thurston Regional Planning Council. We have our March meeting on Friday, so I will be attending that. I am, now that I'm orientated, I think I'm up to speed, know everything I need to know, I guess. So I'm happy though to be a participant in that council. They have some really amazing things that they're working on and have already provided Thurston County. So it's a pleasure to be a part of that. The other thing I mentioned at our last meeting that I had a request from the Yelm Chamber of Commerce to give a State of the Port address at their next forum, which is next Tuesday. Sam and Jenny provided me with some historical and current and future information that I can share with the Yelm Chamber of Commerce. So again, that will be next Tuesday at their monthly forum. The Thurston County Chamber of Commerce, Chairman Downing, I know you're the port representative for that organization, and this is just an FYI that next week's monthly forum is going to be a presentation by the 3 local tribes and giving a presentation of about our impact on the economy in Thurston County and how we contribute to that economy. So I will be attending that meeting as a representative of Medicine Creek Enterprise Corporation and the Nisqually Indian Tribe. So, and that's all I have to report this time. So thank you for that. Does anybody have any questions regarding anybody's report? If not, we can move to other business of which we had none.
Can I?
Yes, go right
Go
ahead.
ahead, Amy. Go ahead, Commissioner Evans. Yeah.
I would like to add an item for future consideration for a work session. I would like to discuss financial reports, both I would like to discuss financial reporting and how we're doing that on a monthly basis and how we can do it better to communicate with the public and amongst ourselves.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Downey, you were going to add something?
Right, thanks. I would like to add an item to our future work session, which is who decides when we have an executive session, and who is the gatekeeper for when an executive session falls within the exemptions to the OPMA?
All right, thank you very much. We will get those on a future work session.
Commissioner, point of order. Your
Yes.
your rules resolution call for a motion and a vote to add those to the list of topics.
Okay, that's right. Thank you for reminding me of that. So we have the two topics. Does somebody want to make a motion to add those to a future work session?
Sure, I make a motion that we add Commissioner Evans' financial discussion to a future work session, and we add discussion of executive session and who calls for them and who makes a ruling as to whether they're acceptable within OPMA.
Second.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second to add to a work session agenda of financial reporting discussion and a discussion regarding executive session, who calls them, and who determines their viability for what's the word I'm looking for? Who determines
That they fall within the OPMA exemptions.
Who determines if they fall within the OPMA exemptions? Okay, so calling an executive session. All right, let's get this right. The motion is add to a future work session financial reporting discussion and calling an executive session. Who determines if it falls within the OPMA exemptions?
And who can call for one?
Executive session, who can call for one? And who determines compliance with OPMA? Does that sound right?
Commissioner,
Yes.
it may help to say RCW 4230, which governs executive sessions under the OPMA. If it could maybe get rid of words that way. But disregard if it added.
Yeah, I'm really trying to get this so I say this right. So, and it's actually, Commissioner Downing, it's your motion. So this is what I've got. A motion to add to a future work session agenda, a financial reporting discussion, and a discussion regarding calling an executive session. Who can call for one, and who determines compliance with OPMA exemptions? Does that sound right? And we have a second on that. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of adding to a future work session, financial reporting discussion, and calling an executive session, who can call for one and who determines compliance with OPMA exemptions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I vote aye. Commissioner Downing, you were muted.
Once again, talking too much. Sorry about that. The computer cuts me off. You know, I hate this computer. Anyway, aye.
All right. All right, that motion passes. So we will, Executive Director Gibney, we will add this to a future work session. The discussion regarding financial reporting and calling an executive session, who can call for one and who determines compliance with OPMA exemptions. All right, thank you very much. Thank you for your patience on getting through that.
Good job.
So next on the final agenda item is meeting announcement. Executive Director Gibney. Oh, Commissioner Downing, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Chairman Ayala, I have one more item, which is this. And really, so the three commissioners need to meet in executive session to begin working with Sam to formulate a performance plan for 2022. So I'm not the chair, you're the chair. A gentle suggestion that we need to get rolling on that because we got 2 months behind us. And we need to put together a performance plan before we get too far into the year.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Commissioner Downing. We have had that discussion, and I believe Commissioner Evans is kind of taking the point on this and working with Felicia. And so I expect that we will be calling that executive session here rather quickly.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, Commissioner Downing, Felicia and we had to reschedule our meeting, but we plan to get some meetings on the calendar, and part of that being getting some historical knowledge from you per some of our previous conversations. So I think we're all on the same page, and I appreciate Chairman Ayala allowing me to be of service on that. I think it'll help, again, get us all rowing in the same direction. So.
All right.
And I guess on that note, not scheduling in meetings per Sam's request, but one of my questions for all of you is if we did want to have some, whether it was weekly or whatever the frequency needs to be to knock some of this out, if maybe we could have Tracy figure out what people's schedules are and when you might have availability to do that. Felicia, I was going to meet with Felicia first. But since we're having this discussion, Felicia and I we're going to look at some best practices and figure out what will be necessary, but just know that that's going to be coming of needing to get some sort of frequency of meetings so that this doesn't linger per your comments, Commissioner Downing. We need to get through it. We're already, going into March, which is crazy. So.
Sounds good.
All right, thank you. Hearing no other business, we can move to meeting announcements. Executive Director Gibney, you have the floor.
Hey, thank you. We are switching our calendar this coming month, and so we will not be having a work session the first week of the month. So our next session is a regular commission meeting on March 14th. That's at 5:30 p.m. We will then have the commission work session, which will be reverting to the once a month calendar at 2:30 p.m. on Monday, March 21st, and then the second regular commission meeting of the month at March 28th. All of those will be held remotely. We will be looking at the governor's and Department of Health recommendations about opening our public offices, and certainly with an eye to the future of when we might begin meeting again in person. So know that we are working on that behind the scenes. And yeah, that's for the upcoming.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on the meeting announcement?
Well, I have one closing comment. I was quite honored to have, thank you, Commissioner or Chairman IL. I was quite honored to have two prior commissioners sign on tonight and give comment. I feel like we're already at our 5-person commission.
Well, that's a good way to look at it. Good positive way to look at it. All right. Well, hearing or seeing no other business to attend to this evening, I officially call this meeting adjourned.
Thanks,
Thank you very
everybody.
much, everybody.
Good job. Thank you.